So this is a little bit of a bonus video for Chapter 5, Lesson 5, just because some of the algebraic expressions can get a little bit more challenging. So let's make sure that we feel really good about this before moving on. So our first set of notes is right here. Just a couple notes for us that you can jot down if you think they'll be helpful. Always follow the order of operations, or PEMDAS, when possible. So this means that we do want to take care of parentheses first. In one way or another, we need to make sure that our parentheses are handled first thing. Okay, so that's really, really important for us to know. Okay, so how do we get rid of parentheses? We've got two options. We can solve the problem inside the parentheses. This is our go-to. This is what we'd like to do first if possible. But if we cannot do that, then we can use the distributive property to get rid of the parentheses. And that might sometimes mean using the multiplicative identity property to put a 1 and distribute that 1, or a negative 1. So we'll see a couple examples like that. Third note here, make sure that there are no operations locking in the parentheses. So like an exponent or even a number outside the parentheses that has to be multiplied into it. So make sure that when you get rid of those parentheses, they are truly, truly able to be dropped without creating any problems. Okay, so let's take a look at a couple examples here. This is just an easier one. This is one like we've been doing so far in the last couple videos. 15x minus 10 minus 11x plus 14. So the first thing that we would want to do here is we would want to rewrite our algebraic expressions so that our like terms are together. So 15x minus 11x minus 10 plus 14. And once you have your like terms together, this becomes a much easier problem. 15x minus 11x, that is positive 4x. And negative 10 minus 14, plus 14, we get a positive 4 there. Now, we cannot go any further with this problem. We do not have like terms, so this is our simplified algebraic expression. It's as simplified as we can go. Okay, so this is one like we've been doing all along. Let's see one that's a little bit more challenging. So this one says 8m minus 12 times the quantity of 5x minus 2m plus 30x. So see how we have a set of parentheses here? That makes this problem different than the problems we've been doing so far. So what we need to do is we need to get rid of those parentheses. And if we can just solve the problem inside the parentheses. But take a look, 5x minus 2m. Those are not like terms. We cannot subtract those terms. We can't do that problem. So that means we have to go to plan B. And plan B, of course, is the distributive property. So something I want to caution you about here is that we're not just distributing a 12, we're distributing the sign with the 12 as well. So we are going to distribute a negative 12 inside those parentheses. That's it. We don't go to the plus 30 because that plus 30x is not inside parentheses. So we just take our negative 12 and we multiply it to both terms inside the parentheses. So bring that 8m down because it's not changing, not being used right now. Negative 12 times positive 5x. A negative times a positive is a negative, so I'm going to put a minus sign there. 12 times 5x is 60x. Negative 12 times negative 2m. Let's start with our signs. Negative times a negative is a positive, so I'm going to put a plus sign here. Now I just look at the 12 times 2m, and that's 24m. Don't forget to bring the plus 30 down into the problem because it still is something that we're going to have to use. Plus 30x into the problem. It's still something we have to do when we simplify this expression. Okay, now we go back to normal. We've got our parentheses gone because we distributed that negative 12. And now we can regroup using the order of operations, using the commutative property, pardon me. And we're going to put 8m first, plus 24m next. Want to get those like terms together. That helps us to do our simplifying. Now we've got negative 60x, so I'll write minus 60x here, plus 30x. Okay, so first problem that I have to simplify is 8m plus 24m. That's 32m. And my next problem is negative 60x plus 30x. More negatives than positives. When I get a negative answer, that gives me a minus sign there. And now I make my zero pairs and subtract, and I get negative 30x. Okay, I only write one sign only. So I figured out that this was going to be a negative answer. That's why I put a minus sign here, and then I just solve it. Okay, I solve this piece, or simplify this piece right here. I cannot simplify this expression any further because I do not have like terms. So that's my final, simplest algebraic expression. I've got one more for you. It's going to be a quick one. Simplify 45k minus the quantity of 30k minus 9 plus 12. This one looks like you can just drop those parentheses, no sweat, but we cannot do that. We have to follow the order of operations. So let's see if we can solve the problem inside first. 30k minus 9. I don't have like terms, so I cannot solve that problem. So instead, I have to do plan B, which is to use the distributive property. So I can distribute this negative sign, or I can use my multiplicative identity property to put a 1 right there. Remember, we can multiply 1 by any number, and it will not change that number. So now I can see that I have to distribute a negative 1 to the terms inside the parentheses, and that's exactly what I'm going to do. So I bring my 45k down into the problem. Now I do negative 1 times 30k. Well, a negative times a positive is a negative, so I write a minus sign there. And now I can ignore my sign and just take 1 times 30k, which is 30k. Keep in mind, I do not want two signs in my problem. I just want one sign, and this is going to get us that one sign. Okay? Negative times a negative is a positive, so I'm going to write a plus sign here. Now I can ignore my signs and just do 1 times 9, which is 9. Okay, if you find yourself with minus and negative or plus and negative or anything like that, you're putting too many signs into your problem, I want you to back up, do your sign math, put your sign into place, and then you can do the number math. Okay, I just took my plus 12 and I brought it down. Now I'm going to regroup my problems, but whoa, here this is a pretty nice problem. I actually have my like terms together. 45k minus 30k is 15k. And positive 9 plus 12 is positive 21. So I'm going to put a plus sign here because it's positive. So my final simplified expression is 15k plus 21. I cannot simplify any further because I do not have like terms. Okay, so just a little bonus video here to make sure we were completely confident in dealing with these problems when we get the parentheses in them. Remember, we cannot just drop our parentheses. We have to do one of these two things. Either solve the problem inside, if possible. If that's not possible, we move to plan B, use the distributive property. Okay? All right, go ahead and do your practice problems and your book work.